I said it as a joke. That's the thing. I was just talking. I don't even remember what about. And I threw out, maybe I'm having a midlife crisis. And then I laughed. Wouldn't that be something? No way. Absolutely not. A midlife crisis is for a very specific type of person, and that person is not me. That person is a 60-year-old man named Chad who just bought a convertible, got a tribal tattoo on his calf, and is currently dating someone who wasn't alive when he graduated college. That is a midlife crisis. I know what that looks like. I've seen the movie. I am not Chad. I'm Sheila. I'm 55 and I make videos about midlife and survival and the general chaos of being a human person at this age. I have an amazing age-appropriate husband. I have a dog. I have a GMC Terrain. I'm absolutely keeping all of them. I do not have a convertible and I am fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I am not midlife crisising. So just to prove it, I did what any reasonable, completely not in crisis person does. I Googled it. And by the end of this, I had a completely different name for what's actually going on. And it's not what you think. I promise I'll get there in just a few minutes. In a nutshell, here's what midlife crisis actually is. You look up one day and realize that the life that you built doesn't feel like yours anymore. The clock gets loud, like suddenly super dramatically loud. And then you panic. That's kind of it. That's kind of the whole thing. It's self-doubt. It's introspection that you didn't ask for and can't turn off. It's regret about the things that you didn't do and anxiety about the time that you have left to do them. It's restlessness, like you're supposed to be doing something important, but nobody will tell you what that is. It supposedly usually hits between 40 and 60, and it can look like boredom with a life that used to feel fine. It can look like suddenly questioning every decision that you've ever made in your 30s while lying awake at 2 a.m. eating string cheese and oyster crackers directly from the box. Not that I would know anything about that. It can also look like irritability, unexpected anger, a persistent low-grade feeling that something important to you is slipping and you can't figure out what to grab onto. And here's the part I wasn't prepared for. When I was sitting there doing my very calm, very normal, not panicking Google research, I found that the term midlife crisis was invented by a Canadian psychoanalyst named Elliot Jacques in 1965. He wrote one paper that was super vague on any of the specifics, and somehow that became the thing that we all use to describe one of the most disorienting periods of a human life. One guy in 1965, and we all just went, yeah, that sounds right, for like 60 years, even though there's more detail on a shampoo bottle. And this is where I got confused because apparently the research on this is way messier than I thought it would be. They keep trying to pin down this neat little age-triggered breakdown, and the answer keeps coming back kind of shruggy. A lot of researchers argue that the crisis isn't really caused by age itself, so much as all the stuff that tends to pile up during those years. Job loss, health scares, losing people that you love, identity stuff, money stuff. We didn't used to really know what to call any of that. We had jokes, right? We didn't talk about burnout the way we do now. We didn't talk about identity collapse or what happens to a person when the life that they built stops fitting. So we lumped it all together, called it a midlife crisis, and made a punchline out of it, and then moved on. This really means that what's happening is not actually a midlife crisis. It's just a crisis that happens in midlife. Life handed a lot of us a lot all at once, and we didn't have a word for it, so we just called it a midlife crisis and made it about Chad and his convertible, which is hilarious because Chad is fine. Chad has a car and a tan and a questionable life choice in the passenger seat. Chad is not lying awake at 2 a.m. eating string cheese and wondering what the point of everything is. That's us. That's been us this whole time. We didn't have a better name for it. So if it's not a midlife crisis, what is it? Because I have some thoughts on that. Let's talk about what's actually going on because I've been calling this a midlife crisis and the research doesn't totally back that up. So I want to try to call it what it actually is. Now, mind you, I'm no doctor, but this is just my take on all of it, okay? So are you familiar with the restlessness that you feel about the direction of your life or what you have or haven't done? That feeling that you're supposed to be doing something important, right? The way that you feel left behind, that's anxiety. Losing your sense of identity, well, that's grief. And it doesn't matter what took it. Maybe it was a layoff. Maybe it was a divorce. Maybe it was your last kid moving out and suddenly the house is quiet and you don't know what to do with yourself. Maybe it was retirement. Maybe it was just time passing and one day you looked up and the person you used to be doesn't quite fit anymore. Whatever it took, the feeling is the same. You don't know who you are without the thing that defines you. And nobody hands you an answer to that. You just have to stand in it until something starts to make sense. I had a career for 30 years, a title, a reason to get up, a thing that I was. And then I got laid off and all of that disappeared. And yeah, I would say I have some familiarity with this particular symptom. Financial panic in midlife is its own specific kind of terrible. When you were broke at 25, you just figured it out because you had time. Now the math is different. The runway is shorter. I check my account sometimes and then I'll close the app and then I'll come back an hour later and check it again like the number's going to change. It's never changed. And then I lie there running worst case scenarios until Doug's alarm goes off, and then I've been awake for like 3 hours achieving absolutely nothing except a thorough understanding of how bad things could theoretically get. And honestly, that's fear, plain and simple. I constantly have spirals at the most inconvenient times. What am I doing with my life? Is this it? Did I waste time? Do I even matter? What does matter? Am I happy? What's the meaning of life? What's the point of all of this? It's called an existential crisis, and apparently it's extremely common in midlife. And I wish someone had told me that before I spent all that time thinking I was losing my mind. It's the questions that show up when everything gets quiet and you can't distract yourself anymore. Did I make the right choices? Is there still time? Time for what? I don't know. Just time. And I sit there running the questions the same way that I ran the financial math, except there's no app to check and there's no number to stare at. Just me, a lot of unanswered questions, and whatever's left in my cracker box. For the record, I do my best existential spiraling in the shower. Something about the acoustics really brings out the despair. Then I start thinking about all the choices I've made. Dang it, why did I smoke for so long? Why didn't I exercise more? Why didn't I exercise less? All of those things that you did or didn't do, your body is now presenting as an unexpected bill, right? You're starting to see the consequences now in your 50s. This isn't a midlife crisis. This is regret. Let's talk about the physical stuff. I lost my hair on my head and I am actively still losing it in real time. Meanwhile, my neck has decided this is a great opportunity to really come into its own. Yeah, I have to shave my neck. I'm a woman in my 50s and I have to shave my neck. And also I'm itchy. I am itchy all the time for no reason. I'm just itchy. So I Googled, why am I so itchy? And then I slammed my laptop shut and I went and got a snack. I've gained weight. I can't get rid of it. I sweat all the time. I have mood swings. My brain is foggy. I'm slowing down. Well, this isn't a midlife crisis. This is menopause. Lovely, gloriously relentless menopause. All of it has a real name, and none of those names are midlife crisis, but they all showed up at the same time in midlife, because that's what midlife does. It hands you everything at once and then just kind of stands back and watches and giggles. The job loss, the identity stuff, the health stuff, the money stuff, the losing people that you love, the looking up one day and not recognizing your own life. All of it landing in the same window of time and piling up until you're standing in the kitchen holding a paper towel with no idea why you walked in there. That actually really happened to me. I stood there for a solid 30 seconds. The paper towel was not helpful, and honestly, it only added to my confusion. Tell me what's on your list, because I know I'm not the only one standing in the kitchen holding a paper towel wondering what the hell is happening. Drop yours in the comments. I read every one. So, what actually happens when you're carrying all of that and the only word for it is a joke? We use the term midlife crisis as an umbrella term for accumulated human wreckage. We made it about Chad. We made it a joke. And then we sat in all of it alone, feeling ridiculous because the only word available was a punchline. Which meant nobody took it seriously, which meant the actual pain underneath it, the real legitimate, this is hard pain, never got named properly. And people just kept carrying it around, calling it stress or a rough patch or it's fine, totally fine, while quietly wondering if everyone else had figured something out that they hadn't. That's just what happens when you spend decades being who you're supposed to be, and then one day the structure falls away and you're standing there going, okay, but who am I actually? And somewhere in that fog, you start wondering if you should become someone who gardens. Like maybe tomatoes are the answer. Maybe zucchini fixes despair. The feelings are real. The experiences are real. They just had the wrong name. And having the wrong name meant nobody got to take it seriously, including me. I mean, I did eventually stop laughing, though. The joke was getting a little too autobiographical. Because when you call it a midlife crisis, you're blaming your age. You're saying this is just what happens when you get old, and you're being dramatic about it. But when you call it what it actually is, anxiety, grief, fear, regret, suddenly it's real. Suddenly it deserves to be taken seriously. Suddenly you deserve to be taken seriously. But here's what I do know. Fighting the beast is easier when it has a name. Even if the name is wrong, even if one guy made it up in 1965 and was vague on the specifics, even if it makes you think of Chad and his convertible. I'm just a 55-year-old woman with a panic about money, a regret about cigarettes, a neck that needs regular maintenance, and apparently a midlife crisis. What does get clearer at 55 is not what I expected. Some of it's inconvenient. Some of it's genuinely funny. None of it came with a warning label. But it did come with some opinions, and we're going to get into that next.